Alrighty. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the weekly small business workshop. Today, our topic is going to be forecasting ROI without spending a dime. And Stephen's going to talk about how to learn how to harness the power of Google Ads for your business by mastering Google Keywords Planner and forecasting tools. Alrighty, so now here's Stephen. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Maria. All right. So we have actually quite a bit of content today to cover. So we will just jump right into it. Let's get started. So, all right. Brief outline of today. We'll talk a little bit about these topics. Homework from last week. So do we have anybody that remembers what the homework from last week was? This was a simple one. All right, got some excited people here. We were supposed to leave a review, so hopefully everybody left a review with a small business that they had a good experience with, because those definitely help out small businesses. So if you didn't have a chance to check that workshop out, please do so, and and do the homework. We all need good reviews. So all right. Let's get into talking about Google Ads. We'll do the demonstration. I'll actually be walking you guys through the back end of Google Ads or the forecasting tool and how to utilize that, and then we'll go from there. All right. So first, let's chat a little bit about, is Google Ads right for you? Because it's a behemoth that's out there. Google Ads is pretty much known by anybody that has a small business. And there's a lot of people that wonder, hey, should I be on there? Is that the right thing? Or maybe you've tried it before in the past and it's worked out okay, or it didn't work out, or whatever. But let's talk a little bit about that. So here's some statistics that I found. So around 65% of small to medium-sized businesses have their own PPC campaign. So that's a huge percentage of small businesses that are actually on Google Ads. Now, this isn't like continuous. This may be that they've tried it out and that sort of thing, but that gives you an idea of most small businesses find it important to be on there. About 80% of desktop searches happen on Google. So that gives you more of an idea of the platform itself. Google is the major player out there. It's Google and search engines is kind of synonymous, because the other ones don't end up taking up nearly the percentage of market share that Google has. So 65% of people have clicked on a Google ad at some point. So another strong statistic to say maybe Google Ads is the right place to be. 50% of users can't distinguish between paid search and organic search results. I find this one interesting because a lot of times when there's the debate of, should I be advertising, should I be doing SEO, and you always have somebody that says, well, I never click on the ads. Well, there's a bunch of people out there that don't even distinguish the difference between what the results are that are in front of them. They just click on what is coming up first. So that's another good reason that ads might be the right place for you. And then the last one is the top 3 paid ads positions receive 41% of all the clicks. So that is a huge that's a huge reason, especially if your business is reliant upon a timing issue. So if you're a service-based company like a plumber or something of that nature, where somebody is looking for that specific service, they're going to find whoever is on top and they're going to go ahead and click on that. So all those, I think, are compelling reasons of why Google Ads is right. Now, it's not, I will say, it's not right for everybody. There can be some things that make it cost prohibitive, but it's definitely a chosen avenue of most small businesses. So let's look a little bit at the types of ads when we're talking about paid ads, and then we're going to really focus on one. So the first screenshot here gives you just an idea of, here's all of them together. And in order, we have local service ads. Those are at the top. And so those are businesses that have been vetted by Google, and they show up in a preferred position, but they still are a paid ads position. Then we have search ads, which are available to everybody, and this is across all industries. So whether it's service or whether it's product or whatever, you have your search ads, and that's the one that we'll be focusing on today, is talking about how to determine if search ads can get you a good ROI. And then the last one here, you'll see that it does say sponsored down in the Maps section or the Google Business section. And this is part of a Performance Max, or most people shorten it to PMax. You may hear that. This is the kind of next generation of the display campaigns that used to run. But Performance Max is a campaign style that goes across multi-channels on the web, meaning it can show up on YouTube and emails. It can show up all over the place. But for today's purposes, like I said, we're going to focus on that search campaign and talk about that. All right, so there's a couple things that we're going to need before we get started, and this is information about your business. So I put some information in kind of a mock example that we'll utilize at the end of the presentation, and I'll show you, kind of how to determine the return on investment based on these numbers. But the first thing here that we're going to need to know is, what is the average value of an incoming client? So you can find the, mean, medium, and mode. So there's a lot of different ways that you can determine what that average value is. And yeah, I have a whole worksheet that's kind of dedicated to if you want to find out what that average client is. But that's going to be the key thing, because that's going to determine the value of a client once they've been closed. Then the next thing we're going to need to know is, what is your closure ratio? And this would be considered your sales closure ratio. So the way you think about it is 10 people, out of 10 people, how many of those 10 leads that come in would you say that get closed and are now paying clients? Okay. All right. And then we have, what is your average profit margin? So obviously, not everything that you bring in gross revenue is going to go towards that ROI investment. And so we got to look at it and say, what is your profit margin on those services or on those products? All right. And then number 4, geographic area. So where do you service? And this should be as specific as you can be, because there are ways in order to target that within the system. And we'll talk a little bit about location and how to determine that and how it affects things. And then the last one is, what services will you be promoting on Google Ads? Now, at this point, when we're doing a forecast and we're trying to figure out, all right, is this a viable avenue? This is not necessarily something that you got to be like super specific about. But you should have a website, and the website should be up to date, hopefully, that it reflects these are all the various services that we offer, and these are, just make sure that it's current, because some websites, they'll have things that it's like, oh, we don't do that anymore, and we want to make sure that those specific services or keywords aren't found when we go to do our forecast. So, and if you don't have a website, if you're just starting out and you're like, you know what, I'm just getting rolling and I don't know if Google Ads is right, well, find someone else's, find a competitor, and find a competitor that has as close to the service offerings that you have, and preferably in your geographic location, because geographic terms will show up as well, and they will make a difference when you're talking about forecasting. So we are going to get into demo, but before I jump into the demo and get into the back end of Google here, these are the 4 steps that we're going to go through, and I'll try my best to come back to the slide just to kind of give you some refreshers. There's some other things in here, other slides that I've prepared, but I don't know if I'm going to touch on all of those, because I'll be in the mode of presenting in the back end of Google. So, but yeah, if you want to rewatch at any time, you can do so. And, I'll make sure that the slides are up so you can see what those are. All right. So let's get into, well, before we do conversion rate, let me jump over into the keyword planner. Now, little disclaimer here. When we're looking at my screen, you're going to notice that this is in the back end of Google Ads. So you do need to have an account. This is something where you can set it up for free. There's lots of different, help tools on that. Just share this tab out with you. Just quite simply, you can search in there, setting up a Google Ads account, and there's, articles that will show you create a Google Ads account, how to sign up, and it doesn't cost anything in order to get a Google Ads account set up. So that does go into the title of, we're going to show you how to do this without, spending a dime. Okay. All right. So now we're going to jump back into the keyword planner. Now, most of the time when you get into the Google Ads Manager, you're going to be on campaigns. You're going to be on this tab here. So you'll notice that campaigns is highlighted. We're going to want to go down to tools, and then we're going to want to go to keyword planner within the tools section. And then you'll see a screen like this. So we have 3 things here that we can do. We can discover new keywords. We can get search volume and forecast organic keywords into groups. So we're going to start with getting our keyword list. All right. So we're going to go to discover new keywords. And this is the first section. So let's say you have a list of keywords already where you know that, okay, this is the service offerings that my business does. This is kind of what I want to be found under. Well, you can go ahead and start typing in those keywords here, and then there will be other keywords that you can put in later on, and you can just build that list kind of manually. The quick start method for doing this is we can go over here to the start with a website, and we can go ahead and enter a website. So in this case, I'm gonna use this website here with All Year Heating and Air. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy that URL. Then I'm gonna jump back over here. And when I get back to this tab, I'll go ahead and put that in. Now I can scan the entire site, or I can use only the individual pages. Now, the reason I want to scan the entire site is because everything on the site is applicable. But let's say this was a competitor's website and you were just starting out and you only do like heating and air portion of it. You don't do maybe solar, or you don't do radiant heat or other things. Well, you can choose a specific page in order to gather those keywords off of, instead of having it scan the whole site, so that hopefully you aren't putting, services that you do not provide in your keyword list. All right, so we're going to do that and then have Google do its magic of going in and searching for the keywords. Now I come down here, and this is where I can see all of the keywords that have come up. All right. And if I select all of them, you'll see here there's about 2,409 keywords that came up. All right. So at this point, we're going to want to start targeting geographic area. And I'll show you why that's important. Because you'll see here in some of the statistics, like this says solar panels is a keyword term that it's showing that All Year Heating and Air is going to rank for, or wants to come up for. So that's a viable keyword term. We have here 167 or 65,000 searches. Now that's across the United States. So let's say that I want to narrow this down, and I'm going to go to Placer County in Sacramento. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of the United States targeting, and we're going to see, actually, before we do that, let's do Sacramento. And you'll see here, there's a lot of different ways that you can get in here. You can have Sacramento County, you can have Sacramento the city, you can have Sacramento Greater Metropolitan District. And so that's the one I'm going to use for now. And we're going to go ahead and save that. And that number has now changed to 2,400 searches within that greater Sacramento metropolitan area. If we come back in here and we'll do it a little bit more refined, and we'll go to Placer County. All right. So it's going to change that to 210 searches. So you can see here there's a big difference in what geography does, because Google is going to take those historical numbers of this is how many people are searching for it, and it's going to narrow it down based on whatever that geography is. Okay. So once we have all of the keyword terms and we have the area that we want to go to, we're going to do this, select all of those, and then we're going to go ahead and add them to create a plan. All right, the create a plan section, now these have been added. It's going to be found in the saved keyword section. And if you go into here, generally I'll make this and we'll just do test, and then it's the 8th. So we'll do 24. So I'm just saving this so that I know this is the campaign that I'm working with. All right, so I have this information here. You'll see that the geography has been reset over in the saved keywords. So I'm going to want to make sure that I make that change to Placer County. Okay. And now what I like to do is I like to go over here and sort by the top of the page bid. All right. What this information is here is it's telling you, okay, this is how many average, or this is the average amount of times someone in Placer County searches for this particular keyword term in a given month. Okay. And then you're going to see here this top of the page bid, and then the for the low range, and that's basically the least amount that you would generally pay when someone clicks on that would still have you at the top of the page. Then you have the top of the page high end range, and that would kind of be that upper end range of the same thing. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because you can see here there's a lot of keyword terms that, you know, cost a fair amount per click. So this is every time somebody clicks on it. So you can tell that this is definitely a very competitive industry. But once again, that's why we're doing this. We're trying to see, hey, is this something that is going to be viable? So I come back in here, and now that I have my keywords saved and sorted, and you don't really have to sort it, but I'm doing that because I'll show you here in a minute why. Get into the forecast, and I'm going to save all of those keywords, or I'm going to use all of those keywords towards my forecast, and we're going to let it run. All right, so as this is calculating, we're going to go through all of these various settings that are kind of found in these two areas. All right, and if I come back here to the slide presentation, this is what it is that we're going to go through: forecasting, bid strategy, you know, matchup, locations, and then other settings that are involved there. All right. So you can see we have our forecast that's arrived, and this is going to give us a bunch of different information on the keywords that we've selected. And then once again, this is geographically focused. So you'll notice there we're on the United States still, so we want to make sure we change that. Oh, sorry, I got to delete the other one, otherwise it still does both. And we're going to see here this originally conversions was at 473, and that will change in a second. All right, so it goes down to 34 conversions. All right, so we're noticing that these changes in the settings are making a difference. Now let's start up here, and we have all keywords. So that's the only option we have. We have maximum conversions or maximum clicks. We're going to want to stay on the maximum conversions at the moment. And there's a little bit of explanation of why, but I'm not going to go into all of those things. I'm just going to give you kind of best practices to do this at the moment. And then I'm going to change my keyword type match to phrase match. So you have phrase match, you have broad match, and exact match. And yeah, the simple explanation is phrase match gives you kind of that median level of a forecast. And that will make a difference in all of these numbers down here. So I like to be a little bit more conservative when I'm doing these estimates because I want to see, hey, is this going to make a difference? Now we already changed location. We're not going to worry about the language. That's English. This is Google or the search partners. Now Google has a whole network of places that it can put ads on. For, once again, the more conservative estimate will come when you do a Google only and not on the search partners. So we're going to try to do that first. And then your date range. And date range will make a difference in things because some businesses are cyclical. So Google is not only going to track what is the performance on certain keywords and that sort of thing, but it's going to track overall during a given month, how popular is that search term and so forth. So I'm just going to leave it on next month for the purposes of what we're doing here. And then we're going to get down into the actual estimate or the forecast itself. All right, so 20 conversions. Let's talk about these numbers first. Conversions are how many people took action. So that means that if they took action, they either picked up the phone and called, they filled out a form, they did something after they clicked on your ad. That's what a conversion is, and that's what a marketer would call a lead. So you can kind of interchange the two and say conversion and lead is the same thing. Then you have average CPA, that's cost per acquisition. So that's going to be a average number of the dollars that it takes in order to get one of those conversions. Clicks is self-explanatory. That's how many times people clicked on your ad. Impressions means how many times people were able to view your ad or how many times they were served up for them to be able to view. Cost is the overall cost of the campaign. So that would be this last number, average cost per click multiplied by clicks will give you the cost of that campaign. And then click-through ratio. So click-through ratio is Google's estimation of out of the 11,000 people that are seeing your ad, we think that this is the average number or percentage of people that will end up coming over and going to your landing page. Okay. Now, that's getting to your landing page. And that's where this little number up there where it says estimated conversions, or sorry, estimated conversion rate. And this is at 3.57. All right, so this is Google's estimation of conversion rates. Now, there's a couple ways that you can go about figuring out what your conversion rate is. You can go off of Google's estimate, or there's other sources out there that will give you kind of what average conversion rates are. And what that means is how many people went ahead, clicked on it, came to the landing page, and then took advantage of that offer. And you can see here the average across all Google ads is 4.40 or 4.40%. Okay, we're not really worried about the display network here. And then by industry, WordStream is a good company that works with PPC accounts. And they're telling us, okay, for home and garden, which is where that would be, that's about 4.26% would be the conversion rate. All right. All that being said, when you're starting out a campaign, I like to be a little bit more conservative in what it is that I'm doing. So I will generally go back in here and I will generally change this to about half of what it is that is being shown. And the reason I do that is because when you first start a campaign, you're going to not immediately get the best conversion rate possible. Okay. So that is
Hey, Stephen, sorry about
that.
that. We
Yeah,
do have a question here on the chat.
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Uh,
I know
uh,
it's a lot of info here, so go ahead.
yeah, so there's a question here. It says, this is a lot of info. Where do you recommend someone go to learn Google Ads basics?
The Google Ads basics, we have some blog articles that are excellent resources on learning some Google Ads basics. If you're wanting to learn like how it actually works and get in there and perform, going through and doing the Google Ads certification courses are probably your best bet. Okay. So Google provides those courses. It's a lot of information, and there's just a lot of stuff that you can learn. Those I do see a question. Those courses, they are free. Some of them. I mean, there's other ones that are put on by companies that are paid versions of that. And yeah, what we can do is maybe on the where you can download the copy of the video, we can put in the show notes, or we can put in the workshop notes some of those links that can go to that. Okay. So, all right, I'm gonna do my best to do some simplification here, and we're not going to go through like all of the details, but I think it is important for you to understand these are the numbers and in the forecast, and this is what they mean. All right. So I made my conversion rate 2%. All right, now I'm going to work with my daily budget. And the reason that this is important is I'm going to jump back to those saved keywords real quick. And you'll notice there that it was a $60 a day budget is what I had estimated. What that means is if I have a $60 a day budget, the chances of me serving up for one of these terms that has a high-end bid range of $285 is almost zero. There would have to be the perfect storm for me to even show up in an ad result for that particular keyword term if my budget is $60 a day and the high end range on that is 285. Okay. So if you want to get really accurate, then what you would do is you would go in, take all of these keywords, and you can just click and then scroll down, go to roughly the $60 range at the high end, and you can press your shift key and then select all of those and then go ahead and remove them. Okay. If we remove those keywords, then this the system will go ahead and reset the forecast. And once again, this is to give you more of an accurate version of am I going to have some results with this? Okay. So I'm going to go back into forecast, and then it's going to readjust based on those keywords. And now it puts me down to, I'm going to have 11 conversions, and, all the cost structure now changes. So this is a pretty accurate forecast. And this is what you have to ask yourself when you get into determining return on investment. Is 11 people that raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested in your product or service, is that going to be worth that cost of roughly $1,800 in order to acquire those 11 people that come in? And if your cost of service is at the point of making that conducive, then I'd say, yeah, let's go ahead. All right, so I'm going to jump back to the presentation here, and we're going to talk about this return on investment worksheet. So this is another thing. I'll put a link in there. This is a little worksheet I created to give you an idea of return on investment. And the variables that we had seen in the very beginning of the presentation, we're going to need those at this point. Now, in our example for this landscaping company, He's going to have 7 conversions, and it's going to cost an average of $150 to acquire, or per lead or per conversion, and he's going to spend roughly $990 to get that. Okay. So in this case, we're going to put in that he has a 30% closure ratio. His average revenue per client is $10,000. His average profit margin is 20%. And then the cost, you can see here in this, is $990. Now, one thing to take into consideration is this is if you are doing Google Ads yourself. If you're hiring out agency like ourselves, in order to do that, there's a management fee that goes on top of that. And so you do have to take some of those things into consideration in order to determine your ROI. All right, back to the example. 7 conversions, $150 a piece. And then you can see here, cost per sale, since he has that closure ratio of 30%, you're looking at, he's going to generate revenue of about $20,000. All right. And his return on investment is going to be 1,920%. All right. This is the little formula for by figuring out your return on it, which you take your revenue and you minus out and you divide it by your ad spend, and that gives you your return on investment. And then you multiply it by 100 if you want to get a percentage. And so that's where it leaves us with that 1900% return on investment. Return on ad spend is a little bit different. It's just an industry term to determine the effectiveness of a specific campaign. And that's simply the revenue that's generated by the ad divided by the campaign cost. Okay. So in this particular scenario, I would say, yeah, Google Ads seems like it should pan out. And once again, that's going to be highly dependent upon your profit margins, the service, dollars that you're generating because of that sale, and yeah, closure ratio and that sort of thing. Okay, so hopefully this gives you a good idea of seeing this is how you can determine return on investment. And I saw a question pop up on, what's the benefit of maybe hiring an agency? And if any of this has sounded confusing, or you're like, oh, this is like a fire hose and I'm drinking from the fire hose, well, that's probably a good indication that an agency might be a right fit for you, because it is one of those things where each one of those small adjustments can make a big difference in the performance of a campaign. And what I am showing you here today is to really see, hey, should this yield a return on investment? Should this be an area that I should consider? Because if it turns out where the numbers don't make sense, then yeah, spend your money elsewhere. There are plenty of places that you can do marketing that will be of great effect for your business, and it doesn't have to be spent in Google Ads. So there's, just for example, I was working with a company and Google Ads didn't seem to make sense for them because it didn't necessarily pan out numbers wise. And so it was more of a concerted effort of, well, what are you doing to manage the current clients that you already have? Are you going back to that well and you're trying to, get add-on sales or trying to get residual income or other things from those people that you already know? And the answer was no. So there was a whole email campaign that was set up, which leads into next week's topic. So that's what we'll be discussing next week, is email magic. So that's what I'm saying, is this may not be something for everyone. There's the glossary terms here. In the glossary, you're going to have impressions, clicks, cost per, acquisition, return on ad spend, all of that stuff that helps you understand what those things are that you're looking at when you're looking at the forecast and then when you're looking at the return on investment sheet. All right, bunch of information, but Maria, any good questions that came up that maybe we should address it?
It looks like we've already gone through a lot of the questions. You did say that we were going to include the resource links with the replay of the
Yeah.
workshop, which will be out in about an hour and a half. So everybody who signed up should receive that. Other than that, we don't have any questions in the
Okay.
chat
I have
right
a
now.
question.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so for like a beginner, first who's going to do this for the like first time or the first few times, based on experience, what do you think are or what are the common mistakes that I should avoid when I start running Google Ads campaigns?
Okay. So, yeah, when you're actually running the full-fledged campaign, just be careful to do your research and your homework beforehand, because what you got to realize about Google. Number one is they are there to make money. All right. So if you leave certain settings undone, or if you don't put limits on daily budget or monthly budget or that sort of thing. And I mean, I've had people that have said, oh, well, why don't we just leave it open-ended, and we'll see what it yields us. And I thought to myself, that's the biggest mistake ever. And then I politely told them that that's not really the way that it works. Is you can do that, but then Google is going to come in and they're going to drain your bank account, because their whole idea is to make money, and they do that by serving up these results. And so I would just be very careful on the budgeting settings. That would be probably one of the main mistakes that we've seen that people have made. There's all kinds of nuances to Google Ads as far as how to do targeting, as far as your keyword research and so on, of making sure that your keyword terms are applicable and they're working synergistically with any search engine optimization efforts you have. So there's a lot to it, and it does take a while to get it down. But if you're going to get in, you're going to learn, and you're going through some of those classes or some of those tutorials on this is how you do Google Ads, take it slow. Don't break the bank as far as your spending. Figure out one thing that worked well or one campaign that works well and continue to refine that. So
Thank you,
very good.
Stephen. Do we have any other questions before we wrap it up?
Okay.
All right, Eric has a question. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, so just a question when it comes to budgets and timelines. So what if, I mean, I have several friends that have small businesses, and one of the things that they've ran into is they always want to know, is there like too small of a dollar amount? Like, can you have too small of a budget coming into this? Like, what if they only have like $50, a month to spend as a budget? And I know that tends to be where they go over to like Facebook, because they can boost a post for like $5. Is there too little of a budget or a minimum budget one needs to come in with to participate with Google? And then the second question I have, then I'll let you go, is what about like timeline? What if I want to be able to run, I got like an event coming up in 2 days? Is there like a minimum time frame I need to be advertising with Google to be able to have it be effective?
Okay. All right. So to relate these back to what it is that we covered. So we covered the forecasting tool. Once again, the forecasting tool itself is going to tell us, one, is this a viable method? And when you go into the forecasting tool, it's going to automatically give you a $30 a day budget. Okay. And that's pretty much across any industry and that sort of thing. And you can set it to be lower, you can set it to be higher, but they put in there $30 as the kind of the baseline. What we've discovered is I try to use the rule of thumb of taking an average cost per click and figuring out what my daily budget is and trying to get roughly 5 clicks, at least 5 clicks in there. And the reason you want to do that is because you want to feed Google as much information as possible. And if your daily budget is going to be eaten up in 1 click or 2 clicks, that's not enough information in order for Google to get a good idea of what's going on. So pay attention to that, what your average cost per click is, and then try to determine your daily budget from there. And then once again, you're feeding Google enough information. And on that topic of feeding Google enough information, that's where the time question comes in. So you can't turn on a campaign that's brand new and expect it to give you results on day one. Because Google is using its algorithm and its artificial intelligence in order to go through and scan your campaign and say, who is your target market? Who is it you're trying to serve these ads up to? And then based on those people's behavior, is that a good fit? Did they do what it is you wanted them to do, or did they not? And it takes time in order to go through what's called a learning mode or learning phase within Google. That generally takes between 1 to maybe 2 weeks, and it depends on the campaign. But you should plan on at least that amount of time for Google to learn what it is that it needs to do. And most of the time, the good news is it doesn't spend a lot of money during that learning phase because it's trying to figure it out. And then once it goes out of learning phase, then it goes into more of a regular spending mode, and that goes according to your budgets. So to answer that question just directly, I would say you'd at least give it a month. But even then, I like going in the 3-month time span for doing a campaign to be able to verify, is it working? Because the first month, you don't know what you don't know. The second month, you've made changes based on the information that you've had. And then the third month, you've been able to see were those changes positive or negative, and how did they impact it? And now you're assuring yourself you're going in the right direction because you're making more changes that should take it in the positive direction. So hopefully that answers the question. It may not have touched on like the full thing of if you have a show coming up, or if you have an event and you're trying to do some sort of advertising for that, Google Ads may not be the best place to do a short-term campaign like that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephen. It looks like we have a lot of interest on Google Ads, so maybe we'll talk about that in another workshop, but you'll have to sign up to see if we do.
All right, so just a quick homework assignment. If you don't have a keyword list right now, start. I mean, you can get your ad campaign or your Google Ads account set up, but if you don't want to do that and you're looking more towards agency services, then it's always helpful in order to have a nice list of keywords of this is what I want to be found under. So start with that. Just get that list prepared and either put it into the forecasting tool like we talked about, or get it ready to send on over. So, all right. And then I did mention this next week, email magic, boosting sales with dynamic campaigns. So we'll be talking about how we can do some email marketing. So I think that's about it. I thank everybody for joining us. Oh, we had one more before we go.
Yeah, I was just curious, where do we register to go go for that workshop next week?
Yeah, so if you go to Lojo Marketing, the website, so lojomarketing.com, and you go to the lower right-hand corner, there is a workshops tab that has all of the upcoming workshops and the links to be able to register there. Or if you're signed up for, the email notifications, then we will be sending those as well. Okay.
Thank you, Stephen. Just to close off, yes, and just to repeat, so you can go to our lojomarketing.com website to sign up, or you will receive an email with the next few workshop links so you can sign up. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to send them over. And of course, and shortly you'll receive a recording of this if you weren't able to attend but did sign up. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
All right.
All righty. Bye.
Bye-bye.